Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the truly fascinating world of building a powerful, completely local AI note-taking system, one that keeps your data strictly yours. We're kind of living in this golden age of productivity tools right now. Artificial intelligence can organize our thoughts, summarize massive documents, and honestly, connect dots we didn't even know existed. But as we all rush to build our digital second brains, we really need to pause and look at the foundation we're building them on. So today, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass in taking back control of your personal knowledge management, all without sacrificing even an ounce of AI intelligence. So let's kick things off by asking a pretty critical question about the massive privacy risk of handing over our most personal ideas and research to cloud giants. Think about it. When you use tools like ChatGPT or NotebookLM to manage your notes, you're essentially uploading your private thoughts, your half-baked ideas, and your deeply sensitive research to a server you definitely do not control. You are basically hoping Silicon Valley promises to keep a secret about your weird 3 a.m. shower thoughts. And sure, the reasoning capabilities are absolutely incredible, but the trade-off is your absolute privacy. But what if you didn't have to make that trade-off? What if you could have the absolute brilliance of an AI assistant running literally right there on your own desk? Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the cloud privacy problem. Second, embeddings and RAG pipelines. Third, mixture of experts models. Fourth, ideation with Blinko. And finally, research with Open Notebook. Let's get into it. Starting with Section 1, the cloud privacy problem. It's so easy to just default to the cloud, right? I mean, it's frictionless. But when we're talking about a personal knowledge system, we're talking about the raw material of your intellectual life. So while cloud LLMs offer incredibly easy access and undeniably superior out-of-the-box reasoning, they pose massive privacy risks for your personal data. But here's the good news. There's an amazing alternative in local AI notes. By pairing everyday productivity ops with local, free and open source software, or FOSS for short, you ensure that your private note collection never leaves your machine. And yeah, sure, it requires a little bit of initial setup, but as we're about to see, this local stock now runs astonishingly efficiently on standard consumer hardware. Seriously, you no longer need a massive data center in your basement just to get cloud-level intelligence. Moving right along to Section 2, embeddings and RAG pipelines. Now, if you have hundreds of pages of notes, you might think the AI has to read every single page every single time you ask it a question. But doing that would crash a standard computer almost instantly. So how does it actually work? Well, it works through something called embedding models. Instead of reading every page every time, embedding models convert your typical notes into what we call a vector map. Imagine this massive 3D map where ideas that are conceptually similar are grouped into tightly packed neighborhoods, while totally unrelated topics are scattered far, far away from each other. And what is just mind-blowing here is how incredibly lightweight these embedding models can be. Models like Nomic Embed Text are so efficient they can literally run on a mere Raspberry Pi. You don't need a massive, expensive GPU to map out your thoughts. Even a tiny, low-power board can handle the whole shebang perfectly. So the crucial takeaway here is that these embedding models pave the way for RAG, which stands for Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Take a second to let that sink in, because this is the foundational pipeline that connects your highly specific personal notes directly to the AI. Think of RAG as a hyper-intelligent librarian. Before the AI even attempts to answer your question, this RAG framework basically sprints into your archives, grabs the exact pages related to your query, and hands them right back to the AI so it has the absolute perfect context. Let's look at how this pipeline actually flows in practice. First, your note-taking app funnels your question through that super lightweight embedding model we just talked about. Second, the model generates a brand new vector, like a coordinate, for your specific prompt. Third, the system instantly compares this new vector to your existing vector map to find notes that happen to live in that same neighborhood. And finally, step 4, those exact hyper-relevant text snippets are tossed directly to the large language model. The LLM doesn't have to guess. It uses your actual notes to give you a highly personalized, context-aware answer. It's a total game changer. Now onto Section 3, mixture of experts models. Moving up the stack, we arrive at the actual brain of the operation. This is where we solve the whole problem of running high-level reasoning on everyday hardware. Once the RAG pipeline fetches your notes, you obviously need a smart model to actually read them and talk back to you. Historically, smart models were just way too big to fit on a standard graphics card. But enter the MOE, or Mixture of Experts model. MOE models are essentially absolute masters of delegation, and they have completely flipped the script for VRAM-constrained local GPUs. Instead of firing up the entire massive neural network for every single word it generates, An MOE architecture divides the model into highly specialized submodels, or experts. So when you ask a question, a clever router mechanism decides exactly which specific expert is needed for that exact task, leaving the rest of the model totally dormant. This hardware delegation is basically a miracle for local machines. Because of this architecture, you can run the essential attention parts and the router mechanism right on your fast GPU VRAM, while cleverly offloading the lesser-used expert tasks over to your standard CPU and system memory. This prevents those massive performance drops you'd usually see on older or constrained GPUs. This brilliant delegation of resources means you can run incredibly intelligent, heavy-duty models like Gemma 426B or GPT-OSS20B and still achieve rapid inference speeds. We're talking like 15 tokens per second on a standard consumer-grade GTX card, all without sacrificing an ounce of intelligence. You're basically getting cloud-tier smarts entirely without the cloud-tier server. That brings us to Section 4, Ideation with Blinko. Okay, now that we understand the engine, the embeddings, and the brain, the MOE models, let's actually explore how this tech stack powers everyday workflows. We're going to start with a brilliant FOSS application called Blinko. Now, traditional note-taking apps often force you to choose a folder, pick a tag, and write a title before you can even jot down a single word. Blinko completely removes that friction. It handles to-do lists and quick ideas instantly. It uses this custom format simply called a Blinko, designed specifically for hasty, unstructured thoughts. You just jot things down on the fly. Then, later on, your local LLM jumps in to do all the heavy lifting, automatically tagging and organizing those quick thoughts into beautifully detailed markdown notes. But the real magic, it acts as a full, RAG-supported personal knowledge vault. To quote a user's experience, I get precise, personalized answers sourced from my note library instead of just the data my LLMs were trained on. Because Blinko acts as this RAG vault, when you ask your AI a question, it's not just regurgitating random internet data. It's actively synthesizing your thoughts. Your local MOE model can generate answers that are so deeply insightful, pulling from your own past ideas, that those very answers often become brand new notes themselves. It creates this incredible loop that constantly compounds your knowledge base. And again, it does this completely offline. Let's hit our final section, Section 5, Research with Open Notebook. So while Blinko is absolutely amazing for quick ideation and personal notes, sometimes you're dealing with heavy academics or really deep research. When you need to sift through dozens of sources simultaneously, Open Notebook is your absolute powerhouse. This software hoards academic PDFs, blog posts, and massive custom documents. It leverages your local AI stack to RAG search through all of this super dense material instantly, organizing and synthesizing massive document troves. But I have to tell you, the absolute wildest feature here is its ability to turn complex documentation into summarized audio podcasts. All completely offline, no way, right? Yes way. Check this out. By integrating local text-to-speech and speech-to-text models using a tool called Speeches, Open Notebook doesn't just read your PDFs, it digests them, summarizes them, and then literally speaks to you. You can literally have your self-hosted system generate and narrate a completely private, summarized podcast of your own research notes. Just imagine going for a walk and listening to a podcast generated exclusively from the academic papers you need to read for a big project. And the best part? It is entirely processed on your own hardware without a single byte of data ever being sent to a massive corporation. Which brings us to our final point and the ultimate question for you to consider today. The technology is here, folks. The barrier to entry has completely plummeted. We have lightweight embedding models for Raspberry Pis, MO architectures that run beautifully on standard gaming GPUs, and incredible software like Blinko and Open Notebook tying the whole shebang together. So, as you think about implementing these incredible open source tools for your own workflows, I'll leave you to ponder the true value of total data sovereignty. If you can run a private, highly intelligent, and blazing fast second brain right on your desk, why would you ever surrender your deepest thoughts to the cloud? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start experimenting with your very own local stack today.